Hey everyone, it's Cathy Zielske. Welcome back to my channel and the craft/dining room. Today, I'm all about the color wheel. I love it so much, I designed a simple cling stamp to let you create your own color wheel at home. But for today's twist, we're gonna make cards out of the color wheel. So stick around, my color wheel card project is coming up next. So here's a look at the 3 core products I'll be using today. First up is this color wheel cling red rubber stamp with this color wheel pattern on it. I designed this because I thought it could be a really fun way to do all kinds of different things with it, which is what I'm hoping to show you today. I also have this brand new thank you word and shadow die. I'll show you the size here of that. These are 3 pieces that come with shadow layer, the word thank, and the word you. So it's a nice size. And then I'm going to be using this congrats on a line. This is the smaller of 2 sizes that this particular die set comes with. There's a big one and a small one. And I'm going to be using the smaller one for one of my cards today. So we've got this, right? That's that. Then I've got a whole slew of distress inks that I'm going to be painting my color wheel with. And these are ones that I've kind of played with again and again, the ones I tend to go back to. And I'm going to just use a basic paintbrush. I've got my little palette here to smush my colors on. And we're going to stamp and do a little emboss resist. Of course, I got my white embossing powder and my clear embossing ink. So these are kind of the basics that I'm going into. So let's get started with stamping. I want to show you the paper I'm using today. It's the Tim Holtz Distress Watercolor Cardstock. I like to have some on hand in 8.5 by 11 because then you get this full-size sheet, right? And then what you can do is cut it down for your project. I'm just a fan of this paper. It's extremely bright white, and I love that it's that colored. A lot of watercolor papers have more of an off-white hue because of the how they create the paper, which means it's good quality. But I like the bright white, so I'm going to stamp on this. So I'm going to take the insert out of my MISTI, and I'm going to take the cling stamp off of the acetate backer, and I'm going to press it right into the MISTI itself. This is just how I like to use cling stamps, and I will set this aside. Then I'm going to flip over my cardstock so the nubby side is going to get the impression. I want to make sure it covers the whole thing here. And I need some of my low tack tape. I'm going to take some of this Easy C tape. I'm going to use 2 pieces just because I want it to stay, right in position. I don't want it to slip. And this tends to work for me. Okay, I'm going to double that up and press that down. Then what I can do is pick up the stamp with the MISTI door, like that, give it a nice press, okay? And we are ready to stamp. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab my embossing magic, just, run it over the cardstock here, as I would with anything I am stamping, just to remove static and oil so that my powder only sticks where the embossing ink goes. I'm using the Simon Clear ink, and I will just ink up the stamp really well. I'm probably going to stamp this twice because this is such a simple image, right? And the paper's not going anywhere, and neither is the stamp because it's really stuck in there. So we'll just ink it up nice and inky. I will close this and I will bring in my stamp positioning tool, I will bring in my pressing tool. This is made by a company called Stamper's Secret. I have a few of these, and what's nice about them is they allow me to apply pressure without hurting my wrists. So if you have any wrist pain when you're stamping and you use a MISTI, you can definitely check this out. I have them linked below. The woman who makes them is a lovely lady, and I have loved the ease of stamping with this. Now I'm going to go ahead and just add one more layer of ink. Bring the door down, nothing has shifted, and press. And we are good to go. So now we can move on to embossing. So I'll take my white fine detail powder. You can also use clear for this if you like. I like this fine detail powder because I like the little bit of raised edge that you seem to get with it. That I don't know if you get the same with the clear. I'm sure you do, but I like being able to see this a little bit more. So that's why I'm going with this white powder and just letting it all coat on the circle, right? Let it sit for a second, and we'll just let it slide off onto my paper like that. Maybe I'll do a little bit more. Got a little areas over here where it's stuck to the paper itself, and I can just blow that off. But again, just a nice coating here. And now we'll just do the tap. And you can see we have a beautifully stamped impression ready for heat embossing. And once I do this, then I just kind of tilt it to look for any dark areas. Then I know I've missed some of those areas, and you can just see it when it hits the light. But that looks pretty good. I don't see any dark areas that I missed. So I think we are ready to move on to our painting. So next comes the painting. And this, if anything, is a fantastic exercise in playing with your colors, figuring out, hey, what's my favorite rainbow? And when you're done, of course, you're going to have this beautiful patterned rainbow to do things with. But if you're just getting into painting and you want to try your hand, give this a whirl, because I think, and I could be wrong, but I think it's a good exercise in doing just that. All right, so I'm going to start with my first 6 colors, and I want to remember that that's the dried marigold, because I think I want to do that one before I get into the orange. Well, maybe not. Maybe that will be my lighter one. But here's what I've got going. I have clean water. I have clean water. So hopefully I'll remember to do one in the jar. Let's get these guys out of the way. One in one and one in the other. I know my technical terms, right? But all I'm going to do is take a little water, wet down this color, and I'm going to start painting from the center out. And I'm going to work my way around with all the glorious colors that I pulled today. But the thing is, I'm also practicing my painting, right? I'm getting a little bit of the glorious emboss resist too, because not only does that embossing resist, see that? The red doesn't even, right? Just doesn't go on it. You can see that. That's the resist factor, right? Because it's slick. But it also just gives me a chance to practice, right? Practice painting. No stress. It's not like I'm trying to do any glorious images, right? No fancy pants here, but it is allowing me to, practice going from darker to lighter. And you just control that by water, right? You add more water to get it lighter. I like to turn my paper, I want to get that there, because, I'm not that great with a brush. It's kind of tricky sometimes for me to angle things, but if I just keep turning my paper, I can pull my brush away from me, which I like to do sometimes. And then look at that. I get a beautiful pie of red. Now, if I want to deepen it, just pick up some of the darker color, right? And come in like that. And get those a little darker. And then you just kind of stop. You can kind of flick it out like that. And the beautiful thing is, it can just be imperfect, right? Because it's, you're practicing. So then you rinse, right? Rinse that off in the dirty, go back to the clean, and then we're going to move on to the next color, which is picked raspberry. So that's all. And the nice thing is you don't really have to wait for it to dry, because that embossing is keeping your colors separate. Does that make sense? I'm actually going to try to deepen that up a little. So it's not going to be a mess. Although when these colors that sit next to each other on any sort of color wheel run together, they tend to look pretty good actually, because you get these transitions in between. And this isn't like the perfect rainbow, right? But you just have to look at the inks that you have. And in fact, you can do this with any dye inks that you have, any water-based inks that you can smush down onto a non-porous surface and paint. Now I like to use distress inks for this because, well, they're kind of my favorite for painting, but I have painted with other dye inks before too. I've done some painting with Gina K inks, which work really well as well. But again, we're just adding water as needed. And if you know, here's the thing too. If you don't get that perfect dark to light transition, that's fine. In fact, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to smush down a little more picked raspberry just so I can pick up a little bit more here and darken it in the center. This definitely will give you an idea of how your paper works too. Like if you, look at that, I can just kind of smush and blend and draw that out a little. And it'll leave, you know, odd marks and watermarks, and that's exactly what we want. But different papers are going to work differently as well. So, you know, I don't have a lot of fancy watercolor paper. I also have, what is it called? The Aquarello, does that sound right? Aquarello paper. I have some of that. And I thought about using that, but I really am a fan of this Tim Holtz Distress Watercolor paper because I think, well, it's very sturdy paper. I think it's really designed to work beautifully with Tim's inks, so it's a good fit. And again, that bright whiteness of it, I love because it's very, very crisp. Now this is Worn Lipstick, which I think is reading very light, and that's what it is. I think it looks darker when ink blending. And that's another thing too. You could take this image that you stamped and embossed, and you could ink blend if you wanted, because that would also be cool. But the thing that I like about doing the painting is the preciseness, right, of being able to, you know, really just lay the color into each part of the pie. And here, I'm just kind of darkening it up again in the middle. I'll just get a little water here and just sort of draw that out a bit. Very, very simple. The thing that I like about rainbows in general is you kind of have a guide, right, for how it's supposed to go. You just follow the Roy G. Biv. And it makes a nice opportunity for people who might not be confident with color to create some real color harmony. Now I did get a little orange in there, but that's okay. Got to slow down a little. Getting a little crazy here. Let's dab that. That might come up. There we go. That's another thing you can do. I think it works better on true watercolor paper, like the higher end stuff. Is you can dab off things by wetting them down, or muting the color a little bit. All right, going like that, and painting. So there you have a nice, just a nice transition from that dark to the light. And again, just going over those lines, watching that beautiful resist happen. I just think it's so cool every time. Orange, and I'm going to start with it light just to kind of lay that down. Well, it's not really, yeah, it's kind of peachy. Well, I guess it's marigold. So there's that. That's why they probably called it that. But I'm going to have to come in and deepen it a little. But yeah, this would be a nice thing just to have for your own reference, right? You could take some of your favorite distress colors, whatever you have in your collection, and you could just make a color chart that's pretty for your craft space, right? You don't have to make a card with it if you don't want to. Multi-purpose. One thing I've gotten better at too is just sort of having a feel for how much water I want on my brush. And I think over time, you just kind of get that vibe. And this is not a pricey brush. It's just a really affordable Zen Royal and Langnickel size 6. Yeah, size 6. All right, we're going to bring in our nice yellow mustard seeds. Such a good yellow. Oh, so nice and bold. Painting that on. And painting them on. All right, so that's half the color wheel, and I think you get the vibe, right? So I'm going to go ahead and paint the rest of it off camera with my remaining colors, and then we will move on to creating something with this beautiful wheel of color. So I completed this half, and the colors, everything will be listed below as well, but we went with Twisted Citron, Cracked Pistachio, Peacock Feathers, Mermaid Lagoon, Shaded Lilac, Wilted Violet, and then right back into the rest of the rainbow. So I'm going to let this completely dry before I begin cutting it apart. Now that it's dry, I got a fun thing that I'm going to do. First of all, I have this set of dies from Simon Says Stamp called Circle Thin Frames. I forgot about these. They've been sitting in a cubby, and when I saw the large size of this, I did not realize this is exactly the size of my cling stamp. That's just a happy coincidence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out. This isn't a hard image to cut out. So if you need to fussy cut this, great. I'm going to go ahead here. I'm going to grab my die cut machine. I'm just going to use my spellbinders for this because this is easier for me to bring into the camera. I will pop this up on my platform. I think it'll fit. Oh, I might have to trim it down. Is it going to fit? I'm just going to trim that paper side down a tiny bit, just to make sure that will fit on the platform. That looks good. All right, popping this down. Yep, that's in place. And we're just going to cut out the whole circle. Running it through. And now I will show you the magical circle that is. Look at that. Isn't that fun? I have a whole circle cut out. So there's that cut. And now what I want to do here, and I'll pull up my platform a little bit. I want to find the one that cuts out. And I'm not sure which one it is. Is it that one? Oh, it's totally that one. Okay. I want to cut the inner, well, not the inner. I want to cut the outer ring out and just be working primarily with this inner circle. Although the beautiful thing about this is when you cut this, you still have an outer circle to do something with as well. Cut this out. And again, you can go in. Well, I guess the thing that's nice about this is when you use circle dies, right? You can cut perfectly concentric circles. I mean, you could cut a whole bunch of these out. Just go down the line, right? But check it out. Gentle with this, because I don't know. I may want to use, I've got this ring that could be great for something, but now I've got this inner circle that's just a little bit smaller. So let's move on to the next step. So while the die cut machine is out, I'm taking the Congrats on a Line die, the smaller one, and this is 5.5 by 4.25. I am going to be trimming that down a little bit, but we're going to start by just cutting the Congrats greeting out. Okay, I'll run that through. Like that, bring it back. And now gently pick this up. Oh, look at that. I love it. Let me get my little craft pick here. I didn't quite go all the way through. Oh, I love when that pops. It scares the crap out of me. Let's just keep going here, and I'm gonna bend that just a little, and that's okay because I'm going to be cutting this down. But look at how cool this is. Also, this is Neenah Solar White Classic Crest, right? Because I want it to be nice and sturdy. But what I'm going to do is grab a panel die, and what I'm going to do is just position this, you know, right about like that. I think it's okay that I had a little mucky muck there with not getting it cut all the way through. Let me take the same tape, and I'm just going to tack that into place and run that through so that this has just a little bit of an inset from the card base that I'm planning on putting it on. All right, gently pick up that tape. Okay, so now I have this perfectly trimmed Congrats panel for my card. So while the die cut machine is out, I am going to cut out a few of the thank yous as well. Again, out of some Neenah Solar White Classic Crest because I want it to be nice and sturdy, and it will be. All right, get those out. Pokey holes, saving the day. All right, I think we're almost out there. And get you out. So now I have my delicate thank you, like that. All right. Oh. And look how pretty that is. Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead off camera and cut the shadow layer. I'm going to cut another one of these, and the shadow layer I'm going to cut out of some vellum because I have an idea for that too. All right, so I'll go ahead and do that. I'll be back. Next, I'm going to glue these together with the, well, let's turn it around the right way, with the vellum layer, right? I'm kind of working two cards at once here. I'm going to use my spray adhesive. I will go ahead and add the adhesive to these off camera so I can quickly glue them together. Just kind of go slow. Let's see, I like to kind of stand up over it and just kind of line that up like that. I'll let go. Oh, I didn't mean to fling that so aggressively. I'm just going to do two layers here, right? Just press that together. And let's see here. Let's line you up right there. Try to get the little parts as best I can. I'm getting better at this. It used to, oh, and then it sticks and you're like, whoa, let's get it. Actually, there are some little dye hairs in there, so I'm going to just scrape them. You know what I'm talking about? The little paper, I call them dye hairs. And sometimes you can just, you know, scrape them off with your tweezers or your X-Acto. Oh, look at that. With your X-Acto knife. So now I have the thank you, and now I just need to adhere it to my vellum. I'm gonna get that. I feel like if I get the perfect little frame around the U, like that, see that? I designed this die and shadow to have a little bit bigger of a shadow. Sometimes I like the shadows to have a little more breathing room. And I think that looks good, right? Popping it right on, pressing it with a clean block. And there is one greeting for one card. Now, I have an idea for the congrats. Next up, here's what we're going to do. We're going to work on the card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice this bad boy in half. So let me get my scissors. And I could do this with a paper trimmer, but honestly, I think it's quicker if I just do it this way. And I'm going to go, let's see, how do I want to go? I want it to be warms and cools. So I'm going to slice it right here, right down the center, keeping it warm and cool. And these scissors are great for this, right? So this is the warm side of my rainbow, and this is the cool side. I want to bring in a card base to show you this idea that I had, and I think it's kind of fun. This is 5.5 inches by 4.25 with the fold at the top. Okay, so I've got this card base here. I'm gonna pop this up just a little bit here, but I'm going to put this rainbow right behind the congrats. Isn't that kind of fun? Remember how I talked a little while ago about you can always scrape the dye hairs off? This is a great way to do that too. So if you ever get a cut that's not perfect, or you see a little bit of fraying that isn't just like the hairs, but maybe the edge isn't as crisp as you'd like, gently drag your X-Acto blade over the edges of the letters, and it just sort of cleans them up a little. And you know, I kind of want to do, well, let's see, I'm going to take this, and actually now I do need my bigger scissors. I want to do something closer to the top too, so I'm just going to cut that in half like that. Spare the rod, but spoil the foam tape. That's what I always say, right? And another thing is too, like I'm thinking about this, like, do I need to pop up all of that? And you know what the answer is? No. I feel like that's just too much work, and I don't have time for that. But here's what I do have time for. Glue this half circle right down to the card base. So I'm just going to take tape runner, right? Just some Gina K. Oh man, I just ran out of tape runner. All right, very quickly. This is very exciting. I do have more tape runner, although sometimes I have a hard time getting it out. So let's see here. Lift and replace and close, just like that. There we go. I just want to get I want to get a nice coating here, right? I could have used a liquid glue too, but you know, sometimes I'm just not feeling the liquid glue. Now, before I position this like that, I want to get you, my little guy here, just so I can kind of figure out exactly how far down I want this to go. I want it to be centered, right? I want that to be popped right there. And I feel like that's the location. Now, I'm not going to commit until I'm 100% sure we'll be yes, okay, I love it. I love it. Now I'm just going to press this down. Go like that. Isn't that cool? Now we have this nice little congrats sitting in the front. I'm just going to line it up on that little banner line, or not banner line, the edge of the card, like that. And, you know, the thing is, too, like, I could have popped up, but I kind of like that the congrats is freestanding. So using a nice, firm cardstock for something like that is probably important. You know, maybe a few would have worked, but I'm just looking for something that I think looks nice, and I like how it lifts up. Got an idea for a sub-sentiment to pop on here, and that is taking one of these Simon Says Stamp reverse grad strips and just putting something underneath here. And I'm not sure which one I want to do, to be honest with you. Like, do I want to do congrats? I could do happy graduation day. You know what? I'm going to try that. I need to find my sentiment labels. Let's see here. This is probably my most used set on the planet. Let's see, would that one work? Actually, I think that would. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out off camera and see if we like this for a little subgrading. Got a little Copic marker, T10. I've trimmed this down, and what I like to do is color the sides of these strips, because then they get this look that they are printed on black cardstock, which they're not. They're printed on white, right? Printed with black ink, and the reason we call them reverse is that's just the term in design. When you take a solid color and you print it and the text is white, that is what a reverse is. So that's why we call them reverse strips, right? And just pop some on the back to get a nice bit of lift. I don't think I need a lot. I just need 3 is probably going to be enough to hold it up. Like that. And let's see, do we like this? Do we like having, oh, I think that's cute, right? It just kind of adds a cool, I don't know if I want it to be like that. Maybe, you know, that has a more direct relationship to this piece rather than have white space in there. And we will position that again. I'm going to line it up so the letters are kind of on each side. And it's kind of got that little line in the congrats that I can kind of position that with and press. Isn't that cute? That's a funky, fun card, right? You got your dimension with the congrats. So that is card number 1. Now let's go on grabbing this piece and create a second card. So for the next card, here's what we're going to do. I just have a little, it's actually a scrap panel of something that I didn't need, so I used that. Ignore that big blue dot. See, I do recycle paper. I make the most of it. But I cut this white panel down out of some Neenah Solar White Classic you know what I'm trying to say. Because I wanted to have just a nice white on white popped up panel, also using the wafer dies. I want to get this sort of aligned in here, but I think I'm going to pop it up. However, I don't want to pop it up till the cows come home. So I'm wondering if I have, I have this foam tape too, which this is a new one. And this is a really, how does one say, a cost-effective roll, because I think it's almost half the price that the 3M tape is. But I will tell you, it's also thinner in width, but also thinner in depth. Okay, so this one has a smaller depth, but all I want to do is I want to just kind of grab some, cover it, pop it up, so that this can have a little dimension, but not too much, you know, because sometimes you gotta know when to hold them and when to fold them, right? And that also means you have to know when to do your proper dimension. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is pop this bad boy in, right? So he has, or she, I don't know how all of a sudden this half of the rainbow became gendered. We're going to take this, and that's all I want to do. And actually I'm going to, well, let's see. I'm going to go like this because I'm right-handed and it's going to be easier for me to see this. I want to preserve margins from, see that, top, bottom, side to side on the inner panel. So we'll just do that. Like that. See that? Pretty cute. Okay. All I'm going to do is just do a little in strategic places. Oh, let's not do that. It does dry clear, so this shouldn't be a problem on the vellum, right? You're just gonna kind of just smooth that on just in a few key areas so that this will stay held in place without looking too, dramatic. Actually, I think I will kind of just run that around like that. All right, so now I'm going to pick that up and I'm just going to position that thank you right over the line like that. And I'm not going to pop it up. I think it will be fine in the context of the card. Now, will it get smushed? It might. It might, but you know what? That's a risk I'm willing to take, because isn't that kind of cool now? It kind of floats there. I don't know. Do you think this needs some shine? So these are my 2 finished cards, starting with the color wheel, right? I've got a warm side thank you. I've got a congrats graduation card. Now, I just don't have the energy to do more with this, but I do think that you could cut this in half and have part of it coming in and part of it coming in and maybe have a greeting in the center. But for now, I just want to bask in the glory of nailing the landing on 2 cards rather than push my luck, so to speak, and mess up a third. Anyway, I hope this inspires you to check out this color wheel stamp and all of the new releases from Simon Says Stamp. All links can be found below, and I will see you back here with another card project soon. Thanks so much for watching today. I would love to have you become a subscriber to my YouTube channel. And if you do subscribe, be sure to hit the gray bell below the video so that you don't miss the next time I post. Here are a couple other videos that you might be interested in watching. Thanks so much and have a great day.